Afternoon. My name is Joseph Cameron. I am a lieutenant with the Pima County Sheriff's Department, Tucson.
And go ahead.
I'm here to talk to you guys about what's going on down in Pima County with the RICO corruption, where it's at, what's going on. Before I start, I want to give you a little background about me, just so you know who I am, kind of where I'm coming from. I've been a commissioned deputy for over 30 years. Probably 29 of it spent in the street, mostly on the night shift. I've been involved in probably 3 shootings. I've got 3 medals for valor. I have probably over 100 commendations, but there's a flip side to that, and the reason why I'm telling you about the good things, I want to do full disclosure with you guys. I also happen to be probably the most disciplined deputy in the history of the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Up to and including being terminated in September of 2001. I was falsely accused of something I didn't do, fought and got my job back, and then I rose through the ranks, made sergeant, made lieutenant. Here I am today. So that's basically my background in a nutshell. What I'm here for to talk to you today about is, first of all, I want to thank you. I'm very grateful that you were letting me come and talk to you. Down in Pima County, it's just out of control. Reference to RICO funds, what's being done with them, what's being done supposedly to clean it up, which hasn't been much of anything, as I will get into. So I'm up here to talk to you guys about it, see if I can get some help. What I'm angling for is Auditor General's audit. I believe if I can get an Auditor General's audit, we can uncover who did exactly what has happened, and how can we clean it up so it never happens again. That's why I'm here. I'm here on behalf of the citizens of Pima County and the guys I work with. I'm not here representing the Sheriff's Department. I'm here representing them. Basically, we had a RICO scandal that started in 2016. It had previously been going on for about 18 years. I didn't know about it. Most of the agency didn't know about it. We had a chief. His name was Gagnon Payne. He had started laundering RICO money through our Sheriff's Auxiliary Volunteer account.
What was his name? I'm sorry.
His name was Chief Gagnon Payne. And he was a chief, been there for many years. For 18 years, he had run this deal where the RICO funds were put into the SAV funds, and then they were taken out and used for things that involved agency needs. It was anything for personal use, but it was for it was for just agency needs. You still can't do it. It's laundering money. You can't do it. Another chief was subsequently indicted for it. His name was Chief Radke, and he was convicted of what amounted to a misdemeanor. He was assisting Chief Gagnon Payne, and that's fine and that's good. Chief Gagnon Payne ended up committing suicide. I was at that scene too. I was out working the street at that night. The point to all this is, I have no heartburn with what's been done, what's happened to those two. What they did was wrong. They broke the law, and I have no heartburn about it. My issue is now there are still people there in high places, some of them are chiefs, that were involved in this. And not only were they involved, they knew about it, they went along with it, they stayed in those positions, and they got promoted after the fact. We got a new sheriff in November of 2016, a man named Mark Napier. He became the sheriff. He ran on a platform of going to clean up the corruption, going to clean up the RICO problems. That's fine. We're all for it. He took office. I talked to him on January of 2016, and all of these conversations I had with him, I tape recorded them. I didn't tell him I was tape recording them. I tape recorded him. State law says I can do it. I did it because I was trying to expose what was going on. And I warned him what was going on with some of his chiefs and what they had done and the evidence I'd uncovered. It's not just what people are telling me. I've uncovered the evidence to back it up. And he told me, he just sat and listened to me the first time. I probably had 3 or 4 subsequent tape recorded conversations with him. And his attitude's always been, well, the FBI's already looked at it. The AG is going to review it maybe sometime. Now they say they are reviewing it. We don't know this. I don't know if the review is an investigation or not. It needs to be investigated. There are still people there that were extremely involved in this, and he not only kept them, he's promoted them. He's promoted them to chiefs, and he knows this. I've sent him the paperwork. I've had multiple recorded conversations with him, and I tried to change it at that level. I tried to keep it within the agency, and I tried to make it right. When I wasn't getting anywhere with him, I then attempted to get in touch with the Attorney General's office. Spoke to somebody there. It was about a 2.5-minute conversation. This person, who I've never met, was extremely rude. I was kneecapped, and I was told that she did not want to see what evidence I had. All I wanted was a sit down, cop to cop, to present my evidence. It needs to be investigated. And she didn't want to hear anything about it. And she told me that she wasn't going to do anything until she talked to Sheriff Napier. My response to that is, how do you know he's not involved after the fact? You should at least listen to what I have to say, look at my evidence. So I have not since heard from the Attorney General's office. My job is to be in charge of all of the records that come through the Sheriff's Department and to give out information when the media or private citizens or attorneys make FOIA requests. That's my job. So I see every scrap of paper. I've gone through the evidence. I've got boxes of evidence that nobody has come and asked for. One point, I had a tape conversation with Sheriff Napier. I knew that the FBI supposedly had 4 to 6 boxes of documents that we needed to recover to have ready for the public when the news people wanted the information, and to hand off to the Attorney General's office if, in fact, they did an investigation. He said, okay, fine. So I went down to the FBI office in my uniform, working, and they wouldn't even let me in the building. They wouldn't want to talk to me. They told me to leave. Like, they didn't give me the time of day. So I don't know where those 4 or 6 boxes of documents are to this day. So I then heard about this committee, the work that Chairman Thorpe's been doing and the rest of the committee members have been doing. So I thought I would come up here and try with you guys to kind of tell you what's going on down there. All I wanted is I wanted cleaned up, and it can't get cleaned up till it gets investigated. And that's basically a summary. That's it in a nutshell, and I'll take any questions you got.
Thank you very much. And for audience members, I've actually been working on the issue of RICO and civil asset forfeiture for a number of years. When those laws were originally created in the 1980s, they were really designed to deal with organized crime, drug cartels, things like that, that do a very, very good job at hiding their money and hiding, their illicit dealings. And one of my biggest concerns is when average Arizona citizens get caught up in RICO. So, for example, in Navajo County, where I represent, a young person was driving the parents' car, got pulled over by the police. He had some marijuana in the car with him. Instead of being charged criminally, they charged him using civil asset forfeiture and went after the family car. And instead of going to criminal court, they went to civil court. And so I have a real concern about the way civil asset forfeiture is used, the kind of low-hanging fruit, like the one I just described, families that are hit with these incidents, these civil court incidents, and then lastly, what actually happens to those dollars once people have surrendered assets and money? Are our government agencies using them, for example, to promote law enforcement, to do a better job as far as reducing crime in the streets? So I had a couple notes for you. So you mentioned a moment ago, you feel that if you could expand upon this, you feel that maybe an audit of Pima County might be helpful in revealing some of these problems.
Yeah, Chairman Thorpe, I think it would be. We can't fix it till we know a couple of things. What exactly happened? Who is responsible if they're still there? And then you can't get that unless you do a forensic audit on what's been done and how it's been going on for 18 years. And you would think, like when this new sheriff came in, I thought, great, he'll do it. He'll okay it. He would want to do this because he's not involved in this. He had nothing to do with it. He has drug his feet to the point. Let me back up. We have what's called senior command staff meetings. I'm not a senior commander. Senior command staff meetings are captains and chiefs and the sheriff. There are multiple captains in that agency, or in those meetings, that tell me that he stood up one day and said, somebody turned on their tape recorder. That was in reference to me having tape recorded him. And he said, I will never do it under general's audit. That's what they said. And these guys are willing to come forward, except they're afraid of retaliation. They need to be subpoenaed. And there's a lot of stuff going on, but guys would come forward if they could get some protection, because they're worried about losing their jobs. But this is what they've told me, and this is what they said they would testify to. So yeah, so when he says those things, it tells me, well, he doesn't want to do this audit, which would seem to me that's just a logical step you would take to clean up the mess.
Representative Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you personally had any retaliation for coming forward with any of the information?
Yes.
What?
After I tried to go to Sheriff Napier, got nowhere. Then I tried to go to the Attorney General's office, got nowhere. I decided to go to the media. That was my last resort. I didn't know about this committee. So when I did that and it went public and it came out, a couple of different things happened. I was told that they actually wanted to fire me, but they couldn't. They were worried about firing me, because then I get a hearing with attorneys and people under oath, and they wouldn't like what came out. So I got what was called a letter of reprimand, which is a form of punishment you really can't grieve. I was put on what they call a special observation period, or an SOP. I'm the only commander in the history of the Sheriff's Department that's ever been put on an SOP. But the main thing that they did, they tried to take my state certification, and they didn't tell me about it. You have to be state certified in the state of Arizona through POST, Peace Officer Standards and Training, to be a police officer in the state of Arizona. So they contacted POST through emails. Because I had secretly recorded him. We have a rule that says you can't secretly record another member. Well, this is a one-party state. State law says you can. I'm trying to expose what I believe is corruption, so that's why I did what I did. And after that, they tried to take my state certification because they called it an integrity issue, that I secretly recorded him, and therefore I shouldn't be a deputy anymore. And Post told them, we're not even going to look at this. But they did try, and then when I tried to obtain the email through a FOIA request, they didn't want to turn it over because I didn't put in the right words or ask the right questions. That's another thing that goes on in my agency. We have people there at the high-ranking bureaus in the agency. When you make a Freedom of Information Act request, that comes through me. It goes out through me and it comes back through me. So when a member of the public or the media or another law enforcement agency or an attorney's office makes, we get it, and then we farm it out to where it's supposed to go. They would, for me, they hit it, and they said, well, you didn't ask the right questions. And part of the reason why I was punished and given this letter of reprimand, because I was talking about my job. Well, my job involves the public. My job involves looking out for the public. I'm a public safety sector worker. So when the public asked me about it, I'm going to tell them about it. They didn't like that. So the other thing they've done to me is in these senior command staff meetings, the chief, by the name of Waltney, he stood up and told everybody that I should be shunned, that every commander should turn their back on me, and I shouldn't even be a sergeant, let alone a lieutenant. So they've done that. But as far as actually giving me time off, demoting me, or terminating me, they haven't yet. They could after today, but that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Thank you. Representative Hernandez was next. And then
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question. So because this does have to do with Pima County Sheriff's Office, have you done anything to bring this to the attention of folks, particularly at the supervisor level? Have you reached out to any of the folks down there? Because they kind of control the purse strings, not necessarily on the RICO funds, but just overall for the Sheriff's Department. Have you tried there? And if so, what was the results of that?
No, I haven't. What I've done is, because they don't do criminal investigations,
Right.
and they don't do audits, they can order an audit. Well, they can't order an audit through the Pima County Sheriff's Department. They can audit the county attorney's office. they have statutory authority to audit the Pima County Attorney's Office. They don't for the Sheriff's Department. That's why I didn't try to go through them. I wanted an audit done, and then if there are criminal crimes uncovered, or if there are crimes uncovered, I want to see it pursued. So that's why I didn't go through them, and I tried to go through my agency, and then I tried to go through the Attorney General's office.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Stringer.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have two very short questions, if I
Okay.
may. The first question is, and I apologize if we've already spoken to this, but do I understand you have not gone to your county attorney yet?
I have not.
All right. And is there a reason for that?
Yes, because I think it's a conflict of interest. Based on the evidence that I have seen, I think the county attorney's office also has problems in this. They also need to be audited. That's my opinion. Now, I don't work for the Pima County Attorney's Office, but I've seen enough documentation to show they need to be audited too. And I also know from being there 30 years, Tucson, for as big as it is very provincial. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody parties together in that culture. The cops, the county attorney's office, they all know each other. And quite frankly, I don't trust them. And I don't trust them to do the right thing. And that's why I have not gone to them.
And, Mr. Chairman, and
Please.
thank you very much for your testimony here today and bringing this matter to our attention. My question is, do you have any concerns about reprisals from your testimony here today, for appearing before us here today? And is there anything that we can do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I'll let Chairman Thorpe know. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't want to lose my job, but I can't take it anymore. I've been here for 30 years, and it's always some type of corruption at the top. Not everybody's corrupt at the top, but enough of it. So I got wind of what was going on because I saw the evidence. It's not what people were telling me or what I thought or what my suspicions were. I found the evidence, and I'm just trying to clean it up. I'm going to be there another 13 years. I'm not going anywhere. So I just want it cleaned up.
Thank you.
And one comment I'd like to make, that the current sheriff is Napier. I don't have any specific knowledge of any wrongdoing on his part, but I just wanted to make sure that our committee understands I'm a Republican and Sheriff Napier is a Republican as well. So with that said, I'm still very concerned about any kind of problems within agencies, and especially this has been a huge concern of mine with RICO over the years.
Right. Mr. Chairman Thorpe, you're touching on the political aspect of it a little bit. I can expound on that. Here's the deal. Being a sheriff, you have to get elected. It's not like being a chief of police where you're appointed. So there are a lot of politics come into play when you're trying to get elected. There are two people who are also willing to come forward and testify if they were subpoenaed, that were intimately involved in his campaign, that have told me that during the election process, the main chief in question, the chief named Carl Woolridge, would feed him information, tell him, give him a lot of under the radar intelligence, so to speak. And Sheriff Napier won the election. It always used to bother me, why won't he just do this audit? Because it's obvious these guys have done things and he won't touch it. And then after these two people came to me and told me what this chief had done for him politically, do I know this? But I know what they've told me, and I know what they're willing to testify to. That's what they've told me.
Yeah, and I don't want to editorialize too much here, but it seems like that if he did really try to, correct any wrongs of the past, that would actually probably buy him a lot of goodwill with the public.
It would. If he kept his promises, clean up the corruption, got rid of the people that did something wrong. If the investigation shows that nobody did anything wrong, a fair, straight-up investigation, then that's fine. But he says he's seen the same evidence I've seen. I've seen it. I've got my hands on it. There are people there that have committed crimes. There are people past and present. Some people are still there. They're gone. They use their personal credit cards to make money off of this RICO stuff. And I'll tell you how it works. So the way they had the fund set up, somebody had to buy food or some type of item or material for something, and they used their personal credit card, and then they would get reimbursed through the SAV fund, which was a RICO slush fund. But here's where they made money. You get bonus points. You get money back. You get things for doing that. And some of these people did this to quite a bit of money. That's another reason why we need an audit. there's so much of this going on, and I'm just dumb street cop. I'm not an accountant, but I know enough to know that bad things have gone on.
Thank you. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deputy Lieutenant.
I prefer deputy.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Street guy.
Who knows? I could be one again.
Street guy. Well, there's worse things in this world.
That's right.
I just like some clarification. I'm trying to track with you on this. So at the very beginning, you said that you do not represent PCSO,
No, I do not.
but then you said you do. Are you talking about you metaphorically are representing rank and file unofficially? Or
Right.
I'm trying to process what you meant by that.
Nobody knows that I've come here today. They're going to find out eventually, but nobody knows that the rank and file doesn't know I've done this. Most of the rank and file aren't really aware of the nuts and bolts of this, because that's not what they do every day. They're out arresting folks and taking accidents and doing police work.
Okay.
You know, so no. When I'm saying that it's not right what's going on, and it's rotten at the top. It's not at the bottom. So I'm trying to fix it, so it's good for everybody down the road.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One additional question. So, again, so I've lived in Pima County the entire time I've been in Arizona since 1999.
Okay.
The day after I arrived here, I knew that something was wrong.
Oh yeah, I was born and raised here.
Okay, so 21 years of street cop in Kalamazoo. So you know how the hair on the back of your neck
Right.
kind of, and you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I guess at what point did you come to some realization that things are not good in Kansas?
Well, the first time I got wind of the problems with RICO was actually during the election. I didn't know anything was going on until the indictment rolled down on the chief deputy.
Okay.
Now you would hear rumors, and I asked this chief deputy. I said, "What's going on with this?" This is probably 8 months before the indictment. He said, "It's just politics." Oh, okay. Well, I had no reason to disbelieve him, so I didn't. You'd hear things, I didn't pay much attention, and then when the indictment rolled down, then that's when it dawned on me there's something really bad going on here. So the election happens. Sheriff Napier gets elected. I was what they call a force commander. I ran the patrol, all the patrol districts at night. That was my job.
Right.
So after the election, they took me off the street, and they put me in charge of records. And being in charge of records is when I started looking through everything, because everything comes across my desk. I have to sign off on everything.
Mm-hmm.
The FOIA requests would come in, and I started examining things, and I thought, no, there is something bad going on here. And it involves a lot of people. It involves more than just the one person indicted and the chief that killed himself. So I was told one day, hey, we have 2 boxes of records we don't know what to do with. You get them, come and get them. So they all involved this SAV fund, this RICO fund. So I got them, started looking through them, and I was shocked and appalled. What had happened was there was a memo in there dated December 19th of 2013. The accountant for the sheriff's department, a man named Ron G, was telling Chief Gang Campaign Chief Captain Woolridge at the time that you can't do this. What you're doing, you can't do it. Well, then Chief Woolridge went back and told him to change the memo. There's 2 memos now. Well, I saw that. In other words, Chief Woolridge knew about it from at least December 19th, 2013, and kept doing it. I have email exchanges between him and different people. Some of these people were not aware of it. The lower ranks don't. The SAV fund to them is just an SAV fund, but he knew about it, and it went on for 3 years, and he went from captain in that position to chief in that position, and then when Napier came in, I tried to warn Napier what was going on. He also promoted him to chief.
Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, did you go to, you have internal affairs with the Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Did you go to internal affairs?
No.
Did you go to the FBI?
I tried to go to the FBI. They won't. Here, I'll tell you about the FBI.
No, I want to know, did you go to the FBI? Did they
Only
did they
to
hear
collect
you?
the records.
Pardon?
Only to collect the records.
In other words, you went to the FBI, they did not want to hear your story?
They didn't want to talk to me at all. The Attorney General didn't want to talk to me either.
Okay, so that's the internal affairs. I was in law enforcement 27 years, and I know about internal affairs. They generally want to hear everything, all the gossip, all the dirt, and everything, because that's what they do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, internal affairs didn't hear you. Attorney General won't talk to you, and the FBI refuses to talk to you.
Right,
Okay, so did you go to the press?
yes.
And that was your recourse?
The first thing I did was I tried to solve it with Sheriff Napier.
Right.
Then when I couldn't get anywhere with him, then I tried the Attorney General's office. And after talking to Sheriff Napier, I tried to collect the documents from the FBI.
Right.
Couldn't, they wouldn't let me pass the front desk, and I was in my full uniform, at work. Then that's after I tried to talk to the Attorney General's office about what I had and got nowhere. Then I went to the media. The media was the last resort.
When you talked to the Attorney General, did you put what your request was in writing, and did you get a written response from the Attorney General?
No, I called.
Why not?
I called well, because I needed a meeting first.
Right.
I called to set up a meeting. Talked to a woman named Kim Ortiz. Don't know her. Would know her. She walked in the room, and I recorded that conversation. And during the conversation, I told her who I was. I told her what my title was, and I told her what I had, that I'd like to come and talk to her. Mm-hmm. And she, in those uncertain terms, told me she didn't want to talk to me. She had nothing to say to me until she talked to Sheriff Napier. And that was it. And they haven't talked to me since, and that was months ago. I've still been waiting to hear from them.
Yes. Why don't we go ahead and wrap it up?
Yep,
with
this will be
last
my
question?
wrap-up comment / statement. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate what's being said here, and I got a lot of respect for you and what you've done in your career and law enforcement in general. But I got to say, I think this is a little inappropriate in front of the committee, and I'm a little bit bothered by some of the accusations that are flying. And there's really nothing we, as an elected body here in the House of the state of Arizona, can do for you. I hope you understand that.
I understand it.
You need to go to your county supervisors. You need to go to an internal affairs department, and you need to actually present the facts to those individuals up the chain. This is not, in my humble opinion, where this belongs, right or wrong. I just wanted to voice that opinion, but thank you for being
I
here.
respect that. I'd like to, can I respond to that, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
The reason why I can't go to internal affairs is because internal affairs is controlled by those people. So I can't go to them. They don't want to talk to me. The County Board of Supervisors has no power to do anything. So I've tried everything I know how to do. All I'm asking for here, the reason why I'm here telling you the whole story, I'm just trying to see if I can get an audit so we can uncover it. That's it. And everything I've said, I have the evidence to back it up. And
if I can just make one last comment, this is the second time I've actually brought people before a committee to talk about some of the problems within the state that have to do with RICO and civil asset forfeiture. The last time we had, 7 or 8 people testify before a committee that was in my government committee about a year and a half ago. And so the reason why I invited Lieutenant Cameron in here today is because this is a public forum, and our committee has to do with public policy, among other things. And I thought it was important to provide a forum, and I'd be more than happy if Sheriff Napier would like to come and address our committee. Mm-hmm. He can come back and respond to some of the things that we have been discussed today.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr.
I would recommend that you, as chairman, and anybody that would like to co-sign a letter to the Attorney General asking him to look into this matter and officially put it in writing, and they have to respond to us.
Thank you.
And I think that these are allegations that have been made that should be investigated one way or the other.
Absolutely.
So I encourage you to do that and draft a letter, and I'll be requesting that the Attorney General investigate these allegations that have been made before our committee, and then we'll see what members want to sign on to that, when members believe that should happen.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Appreciate the suggestion. And with that, thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you for
Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
taking the
everybody.
time to come up.
Thank you.
All right.
And sort of hash through some of the stuff to try and address his concerns. It's a very complex part of statute. It's very complex. It's very there's a lot of detail and some minutia in there that people pay attention to, and so it's important to us that we not go into something like this willy-nilly. And so we would ask the sponsor to work with us, which he's agreed to do.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask another question. Thank you. One of the things with the consumer reports is those reports require answers to questions that any consumers would want to know before they buy a property. For example, does a property have expansive soil? Is it subject to flooding? And then more importantly, if that information isn't provided, I as a consumer can then rescind. I mean, that's kind of a concern of mine when I was reading this piece of legislation. And that's just one piece. We're not even talking about the Airbnb piece, which is another.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a motion to go ahead and not move the bill tonight, and we're going to go ahead and hold the bill, and then that will give us an opportunity to try to put that stakeholder meeting together before we continue with this bill, if that makes sense.
Very good,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. Thank
Then
you
we
for
can
the
kinda
opportunity to testify.
work out some of the kinks in the bill.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So
So moved.
you need to make a motion to
Make a motion
to withdraw.
withdraw the bill from consideration.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
Can do it fast enough.